The captain's head lolled sideways, and the teenager in seat 4A was the only one who moved.
He's not moving. Nobody else is even looking.
Sir, stay in your seat. You can't just...
The pilot, he's out. I have to do something.
Ethan Cole, 17, slipped into the seat and closed his shaking hands on the yoke. Then he keyed the mic.
Mayday, Mayday, the pilot is unconscious. I'm a passenger. I'm at the controls.
Aircraft calling Mayday, say again. Who is flying? Do you have any experience?
I'm Ethan. I've flown simulators, a lot, but never a real plane.
All right, Ethan, listen carefully. I'm going to talk you through this. First, level the wings.
3,000 feet above the ground, the fate of 27 souls now rested on a 17-year-old's next breath.
Ethan, engage the autopilot. The button marked AP, press it. I'll give you a heading.
Ethan's thumb fumbled over the autopilot panel, his brain screaming that the button layout was like the sim, but heavier.
Got it. Autopilot's on. Heading. I need the heading.
Someone tell me what's going on up there. I am not dying because of some.
Please, sir, sit down. The pilot collapsed. A passenger is flying. He's on with air traffic control.
A passenger. He's a kid. I saw him board. He can't fly. I should be up there. I've got a license.
He's wrong. I have to be enough. Focus. Only the next instruction.
Sir, you will sit down, or I will restrain you. He's following ATC. He's our only chance.
Ethan heard the rising chaos behind him, tuned it out like he'd tuned out the bullies at school, and focused on Ray's voice. The autopilot held. Inside the cabin, a man with a pilot's license screamed at a flight attendant while a 17-year-old flew them toward a storm.
Ethan, storm's ahead. Turn left heading 240. And watch your fuel. It's burning faster than it should.
He's right. The needle's already past the first red mark.
Then the caution panel lit amber. Elec B, Elec, BS2. The cockpit filled with a steady warning.
I've seen this. The bus reset. It's burned into my fingers. Ray, I've got a generator bus fault. I know the reset. Give me a second.
His hand found the switch, clicked it off, and back on. The amber light flickered and died. The chime stopped.
Oh, God. He fixed it. He actually fixed it.
That was the sim. The sim just saved us.
Good fix, Ethan. But those storms aren't done with us. We're going to have to drop altitude later. Stay sharp.
The black wall of weather ahead swallowed the horizon, and the fuel gauge kept falling. But for the first time, the boy in the seat looked like a pilot.
Ethan, the storm is too rough for autopilot. Disengage it. You'll have to hand fly. Can you do that?
Ethan pressed the disconnect, and the yoke came alive in his hands, shaking with the full force of the storm.
No autopilot. No crutch. Just me and this metal tube in the wind.
The first hard buffet slammed the plane sideways. The altimeter spun as the aircraft pitched down into gray mist.
Fly the airplane. My sim instructor's voice. Fly the airplane first. Nothing else matters.
He pulled back on the yoke, overcorrected, then remembered. Small movements. He steadied, and the nose rose toward the horizon.
Ray, I am stabilizing. Heading 240, leveling at 8,000.
Good, kid. You are doing it. Now hold that attitude and ride through the bumps. We've got you.
In the cabin, a woman sobbed openly, and Mr. Thorne's knuckles were bone white on the armrest. But the plane no longer fought the air. The storm raged on, but for the first time, the yoke felt like an extension of Ethan's will, rather than a wild animal.
Ethan, the weather at your destination just went below minimums. ILS may be unreliable. There's another airport, smaller, but you'll have to fly a visual approach.
The fuel gauge needle trembled under the 20-minute mark, sinking fast.
Do what a real pilot would do. I am not trusting my life to a kid with a game.
Ray, I've flown the visual into that smaller field on my sim. I can handle it.
How many times have you simulated it?
Enough.
Ray didn't press. He issued a new heading and began vectoring Ethan toward the smaller field, his voice steady as if they'd done this 100 times.
You really know this approach?
I've flown it 100 times. It'll work.
The aircraft banked west over the storm, fuel fading fast, toward a runway Ethan had touched only in a virtual world. For the first time, the choice was his.
Ethan, start your descent. Maintain 1,000 feet per minute. Call when you are at pattern altitude.
Ethan eased the yoke forward, and the plane nosed into the gray blanket, visibility dropping to nothing. Then, a fist of air smashed them from above. The altimeter unwound like a clock gone mad. 300 feet in seconds. A synthetic voice filled the cockpit. Terrain, pull up. Ethan hauled back on the yoke with everything he had. The wings groaned. The horizon spun.
Ethan.
I can do this.
Ethan, level off now. You are at 1,500. Level off.
The wings leveled 10 feet above the invisible treetops. Sandra's face was slick with tears, her knuckles white on the cockpit doorframe. Ethan drew a shaking breath and began setting up the traffic pattern from memory, downwind leg first, as if he'd done it 1,000 times.
Ethan, how do you know the pattern like that? You just flew a downwind leg without me saying a word.
Ethan's mind flicked to his bedroom. 3 monitors, a yoke worn smooth, a poster of this very airfield on his wall.
I've flown the Cessna simulator path for this field 200 times. The layout is burned into my brain.
How many total hours have you spent on that simulator?
3,000. Maybe more. I stopped counting after I rebuilt the throttle quadrant.
In the silence, Ray remembered a Summit Academy note, a teenage applicant with a sim log that read like a flight instructor's.
Kid, you were supposed to interview at Summit today, weren't you?
Ethan's jaw tightened. He had told no one, not even his late father. But Ray already knew.
You were going to be a pilot? And you never said anything?
The cockpit filled with a heavy electric silence, the kind that reshapes how everyone sees the 17-year-old at the controls. In the ATC control room, a supervisor quietly patched a call through to Summit Flight Academy, the screen showing the aircraft's tiny blip.
This is Helen Cross. Put the frequency through. I want to hear him fly.
Tower, Cessna 273. Request wind check. We're on the downwind leg.
Dr. Cross leaned closer to the speaker, her sharp eyes closing for a moment as she listened.
Steady winds. 290 at 15.
He's calm. That's not a kid playing a game. That's discipline.
Ray glanced at the lit frequency indicator and understood immediately. He keyed his mic with renewed care.
Keep it coming, Ethan. You've got more than just me out here rooting for you today.
On the ground, the school that had ignored sim-trained kids for years found itself listening to its own future, a 17-year-old calling an approach without a trace of doubt. The interview had started.
Ethan, you are 500 feet too high. Make a left 360 for spacing. Do it now.
Ethan rolled the yoke left, and the aircraft banked into a tight circle over the rain-soaked trees. Heavy and slow, the fuel gauge needle touched 8 minutes.
Heavy on the controls. Just like the sim when I turned off the force feedback. Don't stall.
In the cabin, passengers felt the sudden bank and gasped, hands gripping armrests.
Turning final now. Gear down.
Sandra's hand found his shoulder and squeezed gently. No words, just pressure.
Winds gusting. Ethan, be ready on the throttle. You are clear to land. Runway 27.
Just like the sim. Just like the sim.
The small aircraft, low and committed, lined up with the narrow strip that cut through the trees, fuel almost gone, but the nose pointing home.
My dad was a mechanic. He died 5 years ago, and he never thought I'd get a real shot at flying. I was just a kid playing a game to him.
Sandra's hand tightened on his shoulder, her own eyes spilling over.
I never told anyone about the interview. I was so sure I'd fail. I didn't want to let him down.
A tear fell on the yoke, then another, and he let them come.
Look at me, Ethan. You are the pilot. You are not going to fail. Land this plane.
She's right. This is the test. Not some interview. This is my chance.
In his mind, the sim room and the cockpit merged. All those hours were for this moment.
Tower, Cessna, 273, final approach stable, gear down, ready to land.
I'll be your flight attendant any day, Ethan. Now bring us home.
He was no longer the anonymous kid in the hoodie. He was the pilot who would land this plane.
Tower, Cessna, 273, visual runway in sight through the rain.
Cessna, 273, wind 290 at 15, gusting 20, cleared to land runway 27.
Come on, son.
Ethan nudged the throttle forward, and the nose dipped toward the threshold, every muscle remembering the sim's exact pitch attitude, the precise force needed to hold the glide.
Dad, if you can see me, this one's for you.
Looking good, Ethan. Keep it steady. We've got all the time in the world now, you hear?
The storm's grip finally loosened. The runway lights sharpened into a clear path, and the altimeter unwound at a steady 500 feet per minute, smooth as the sim.
Landing gear 3 green, flaps full, on glide path.
In the academy office, Dr. Cross found herself holding her breath, hands pressed flat on her desk, her entire career waiting on a 17-year-old's voice. The aircraft crossed the invisible line of commitment, fuel almost gone, engines humming the last of their reserves, but the nose pointing true. There was no turning back now. At 200 feet, the cockpit froze with a single synthetic word: wind shear. Wind shear.
Ethan, full power. Go around, climb, climb.
Ethan slammed the throttles forward, his whole body thrown back as the craft shuddered in the invisible fist of air, every muscle screaming for lift.
The yoke is fighting me. Don't let it push you down. Fly through it, just like the sim in a stall.
The tail swayed wildly. The altimeter spun down through 150. In the cabin, a collective shriek filled the silence between alarms.
Not like this, Ethan. Fight.
I am fighting. Come on.
He pulled back on the yoke with a force that seemed to crack his spine, and the nose rose, clawing at the air, inch by inch by inch.
Nose coming up. Level the wings. Hold it there, son. You've got it.
100 feet above the treetops, the stall horn fell silent. Ethan's hands were numb, his vision blurred with sweat, but the plane was climbing. They were still flying. They had another chance. The fuel warning flashed empty. The right engine coughed once, then fell silent, the propeller feathering to a stop.
Fing, calm. Don't let them hear the fear. Breathe, Sandra. Tell them to brace. We're coming in without power. No engines.
Sandra turned to the cabin, her voice cracking as she shouted, "Brace, heads down. Hold on." Ethan trimmed the aircraft for best glide, feeling the controls go slack without the engine's push, holding the nose just high enough.
300 feet, Ethan. 200. You are on the numbers. You can make it.
The runway numbers rushed toward them, clearer than they had any right to be, like a promise in the rain.
We're going to make it. Dad, I'm bringing them home.
In the cabin, 25 people pressed their heads to their knees and prayed for a boy's hands. The plane settled into its glide path, the wind whistling past the dead propeller. The runway straight ahead, 50 feet above the runway. The centerline stripes blurred into a single white streak. Ethan's world narrowed to the altimeter needle ticking down. He began the flare too early. The nose rose, the plane ballooned briefly, then sank as the lift bled away. The left engine, wounded for miles, coughed its last metallic spark and died. Now both engines were silent. Only the rain tapped the windshield.
Too fast. Ease it. Let the energy bleed into the ground effect. I've recovered stalls in the sim 100 times.
He released a fraction of back pressure, felt the plane settle, then pulled again, and the stall horn shrieked, an angry warning that they had nothing left to give. Sandra's knuckles went white where she gripped the back of his seat, her whispered prayer drowned by the horn. 20 feet. 15. The runway numbers, painted huge on the asphalt, rushed up with terrible clarity.
Dad, I am bringing us home. Watch this.
The world hung on a thread. Stall horn screaming, wings wobbling on the edge, rain haloing the lights. Then the tires met the runway with a bone-jarring thud, then a squeal of rubber, and the world became smoke and spray. He threw his weight into the rudder pedals, the plane skidding but holding the center line by inches, his hands moving faster than conscious thought. He stomped the brakes, the nose dipping hard, the runway lights sweeping past in a blur that slowed, until the world stopped. The plane sat motionless, engines silent, rain tapping a soft rhythm on the windshield.
I am here. I am actually here. Dad, we made it.
Ethan.
Then she sagged against the jump seat, face buried in her hands, her sobs filling the cockpit like a prayer answered. Ethan killed the remaining switches, his fingers trembling, then slumped back, chest heaving with exhaustion. Outside, the storm softened to a drizzle, the runway a black ribbon under the lights, and in the quiet of the dead engines, the boy who'd been ignored for 17 years finally became a pilot.
Ethan, I've got half my room crying. You just became a pilot, son.
Behind that voice, Ethan heard a scatter of applause in the radar room and a supervisor loudly blowing his nose.
Get a car to that airport. I want Ethan Cole in my office by tonight.
She hung up and stared at the empty slot on her office schedule, the 3 p.m. interview that never happened. It would happen tonight. Outside, flashing emergency lights painted the wet runway as paramedics rushed toward the plane and carefully lifted the unconscious captain onto a stretcher. Firefighters pried open the forward cabin door, and one by one, passengers stumbled out into the drizzle, blinking at the flashing lights. Mr. Thorne, his expensive jacket soaked, stepped forward. His face was pale, his hands trembling.
Son, I didn't know. You were never just a kid. I am sorry.
I am not the kid they ignored anymore. I am a pilot.
Then, beyond the emergency lights, a black sedan pulled up. A man in a suit got out, holding a sign, Ethan Cole, Summit Academy. The interview had finally found him. Ethan walked through the glass doors of Summit Flight Academy, the building's sign still wet from the storm. Inside, Dr. Cross's office was warm, a single desk lamp illuminating the speaker that had carried his voice.
We pulled your simulator logs, 3,000 hours, complete with instructor-level check rides. You've been training for this moment for 2 years, Ethan.
My father was a mechanic. He always worried I was just playing games. I never showed him these logs.
He would be proud. I am offering you a full scholarship. Tuition, books, housing, and a pathway to teach.
She placed the letter on the desk, the golden crest catching the light.
Dad, we made it.
He signed his name, the pen, still unfamiliar in his hand.
Welcome to Summit, Ethan. You are not just a student. You are proof that the industry has been overlooking the wrong kids.
The rain had stopped, and the runway lights shone against a clearing sky, as if the storm had finally given way to something new. The next morning, Ethan Cole walked onto the Summit flight line wearing a white pilot's shirt for the first time, epaulets crisp against his shoulders.
This is real. I am not just a kid in his bedroom anymore.
He crossed the ramp to a Cessna 172 trainer, the same model he'd flown 1,000 times in a simulator, and laid his hand flat on the leading edge.
The metal was cold, the rivets rough under his fingers. No force feedback, just wind and physics.
Behind him, Sandra Voss emerged from the terminal, still in her flight attendant uniform, eyes swollen but smiling.
Look at you. You look like you were born for this.
I just did what you told me. Landed the plane.
She pulled him into a fierce hug, the kind that says more than words, and whispered something in his ear.
You were never the kid we ignored. You were the pilot we needed.
Then she stepped back, nodded once, and walked away. Ethan turned to the Cessna, climbed into the Cessna, climbed into the left seat, and for the first time started the engine not to save his life, but to begin it. 3 years later, Ethan Cole walked into the Summit Academy Sim Center as a licensed pilot and a graduate, his instructor badge clipped to his shirt. A shy 15-year-old sat hunched in the sim rig, staring at the monitors as if they might bite, his sneakers barely reaching the pedals.
This approach right here, I flew it with a dead engine and no fuel, 100 feet above the trees. You can handle it in a sim.
The kid nodded, his hands slowly wrapping around the yoke, knuckles white, just like Ethan's once were.
Sim hours count. I logged 3,000 before I ever touched a real yoke. I am proof.
Across the room, Dr. Helen Cross stood in the doorway, her arms folded, a rare smile softening her sharp features.
The kid reminds me of someone who once landed a plane no one thought he could.
Ethan glanced up and grinned, then turned back to the screen. The stabilizer was out, and the sky was virtual, but the lesson was real. The teen's jaw set, and he began the same approach Ethan had flown in terror, his hands guided by the calm words of someone who had been there. The sim center hummed with quiet possibility. The industry had overlooked sim-trained kids for years. That was about to change. Ethan stood on the observation deck. The sunset, turning the runways gold. A cardboard box tucked under his arm. Inside the box was his old gray hoodie, folded carefully, the one he wore on that flight.
That hoodie still smells like the cockpit. Fear and jet fuel.
He pulled out his phone and scrolled to a photo. Him, Sandra, and the Cessna, minutes after landing. Soaked but laughing.
She was the first person who ever believed I could do it.
He stared at the image until the screen dimmed, then closed the box and looked up. A plane roared off the runway, arcing into the darkening sky.
I was supposed to fail that interview. Now I am the one who teaches kids like me.
He let the thought settle, then turned away, the box light in his hands, the weight of that day finally at peace. He walked toward the parking lot, not as the scared kid in seat 4A, but as Ethan Cole, pilot. A new semester bus pulled up to Summit Academy, and a dozen teenagers stepped off, each carrying a laptop with sim logs instead of textbooks. Among them, a girl in a hoodie clutched a laptop to her chest, her sim log brightly visible on the screen.
You look like you've got something to show me.
She turned the laptop around. The screen read, "Total sim hours, 2,500.
That's more than I had when I landed that plane. You are already past the hardest part.
The girl's grin broke wide. The first real smile that morning.
Let's go plug that log into a real sim. I want to see what you can do.
They walked toward the sim bay, their footsteps echoing in a hall that no longer belonged only to the academy. The sim bay doors slid open, revealing rows of machines waiting, each one ready to convert virtual hours into real flight. The industry had overlooked kids like her for decades, but Ethan Cole had just opened the door, and a new generation was walking through. That night, long after the academy fell silent, a single soft glow burned in the sim center. Ethan sat alone in the full-motion rig, the storm from 4 years ago howling on the screen.
This time the fear is gone. Now, I am just remembering.
His hands moved gently on the yoke, the stall horn just a familiar note now, the wind shear a known dance. He landed the virtual plane and let the screen freeze on the runway lights, his face calm. He shut the rig down, the screens fading to black, and placed his palm flat on the console. Then he stood, grabbed his jacket, and walked toward the door. The camera lingered on the empty rig, the runway still lit on the last screen. A digital runway guiding the next pilot who would sit there. The room was silent, but the light remained like an open door. The boy who landed a plane was gone. In his place sat a teacher who would make sure no one ever had to fly alone.